be back at the Glamping show. This is our 5th year here, so thanks sincerely to the show. They have been providing useful information for so many of our clients along the way, and it's great to see so many of our clients here. In this session, we are going to be talking a little bit about, briefly, who I am and Quality Unearthed, which is our main glamping agency. Then looking at tree houses specifically. Why tree houses? Why are they popular? Delving into some of the projects that we've been working on, aside from Quality Unearthed, to try and build a 7-unit treehouse site in Oxfordshire. So we'll be telling that story and some of the challenges we've had along the way. Real desire there is to share those with you guys so that hopefully you can avoid them. Brief mention about investment opportunity, and then hopefully more excitingly looking at what's coming after glamping, or rather what's next for glamping, so what's after tree houses, with a particular focus on things like earth ships, eco homes, and general 4-season structures and on-canvas structures. So just before we get started, can I have a show of hands? Who already has a glamping site up and running? Okay, and who is looking to get started in glamping? Okay, that's good. If no one put their hand up, that would be concerning. Okay, excited. So, Quality Unearthed. We are a dedicated glamping agency. So our background is in renting self-catering accommodation, primarily in Wales with Quality Cottages. We're Wales' largest independent cottage agency. It's a family business. When I came back to the UK in 2010, after having built earth ships, lived in caves and forests and various types of alternative accommodation, I could see that there was a lot of people developing glamping sites, which are often very environmentally sustainable, but not necessarily financially sustainable. So our vision was to apply our experience since 1961 with the family business, apply that to the world of glamping. Also, it was a passion of mine. I was living in a year, to spend 8 years living in a year. So what we do, we help people get set up, but fundamentally it's about the marketing, the sales, the finance side of things, so everything required to get great guests to the door of your site. We've been doing that now for 9 years. So I run Quality Unearthed, Quality Cottages. We also set up a festival, which was intended as a business launch for Quality Unearthed. We had great fun doing it, so that became an event. And the treehouse construction side of things is Tree Dwellers. As mentioned, our background, or personal background, has been living in these sorts of structures, living the lifestyle ultimately that so many others want to experience. So it's my vision to help others experience that too, fundamentally for the benefits to well-being. You know, we live stressful lives, and ultimately, beyond all the glitz and glamour of the funky structures, it is about the experience, and a core part of that is taking people out of their stressful lives, especially in cities, and allowing them to go forward to nature, such that, you know, brain waves relax, stress relax, and hopefully they go back into the world feeling better. That's good for all of us. I own a couple of yurts, a gypsy van, 16-ton lorry we're converting, but primarily at the moment it's about building 7 tree houses. So, Quality Unearthed has been lucky to ride the wave of glamping since fairly early on. We've experienced a lot of growth, especially in the last 12 months, being 90% up year on year. I'm not here just to pitch that to you. The reason I'm sharing that is to show you guys that glamping is here to stay. It's not a fad, as some people ask. I think the market is really being consolidated. And I think there's exciting things to come for glamping, so it's a great time to get into it. Having said that, the structures are evolving. There's certain structure types which did really well in 2010, 11, 12, but now perhaps struggling a little bit. So touching on what people can do if they've got an existing site to really make it a bit more appealing, or indeed if you're setting up, you know, to position yourself at a place where it's going to be financially successful over 5, 10, 20 years as others come into the market. So we represent 240 glamping structures in the UK and France, 13,500 people on holiday with us, and some of our successful structures are earning 60k plus. So done well, obviously this can be a great financial decision. But specifically, tree houses, which I'm sure you guys have all heard a little bit about so far at the show, those are really the pinnacle of what is performing well at the moment. There are other structure types too, But tree houses have been really, since we got started, the #1 sellers. They are most searched for structure type on the Quality Unearthed websites. The revenues are the highest. There's a couple of exceptions to that. Top 7 pages on the website are tree houses. So yes, they're romantic, yes, they're exciting, but there's also a strong financial argument for them. One of the reasons I think tree houses are successful is that there's actually not that many of them. Okay, and why are there not that many of them? Well, fundamentally, the barriers to entry are fairly high with tree houses. You know, it's not like a bell tent or a lotus bell where you can get set up relatively cheaply. Tree houses are arguably 100k and upwards. Now that's a challenge for some, but it's an opportunity in another way, because if you do really develop a fantastic tree house, it is harder for others to follow. But having said that, it can take a really long time to get set up, as I've experienced personally. So what we saw, we could see through the Quality Unearthed website that tree houses were performing really well. So I was advising people at the Glamping show and beyond to develop their own tree houses. But hell's bells, it was taking a long time. You know, the lead time to get set up. Well, I've been interested in building now since around 2013, and that's going to be the crux of the story about what we got wrong. Now, in my mind, there's a magic formula to tree houses. Given that they're quite a significant investment, we want to make sure that we do that right. Now, that magic formula, in my mind, has to take account of things like the average length of stay. Does anybody want to have a guess as to what the average length of stay in a tree house is? 2 days? Yeah, bang on. 2.1 is the answer for this. Versus the rest of our glamping structures is 3 nights. Okay, so that has some bearing on our plans, but more specifically bearing on travel distance. So I live in Pembrokeshire in West Wales. It's about 5 hours from London. People are not going to be travelling down from London for a 2-night stay in Pembrokeshire. So the sites that we were interested in were around within 2 hours of major conurbations, where they've got the disposable income, they're exposed to contemporary culture, so they're excited and able to pay for tree houses. So our land, this is here, it wasn't ideal. So what we did, we placed an advert in a couple of land magazines, and I had zero expectation of getting any response from these adverts, but I thought, why not? 100 quid an advert, let's give it a go. And the advert was specifically seeking landowners who wanted to lease us land to build tree houses. The response we had was amazing. I must have had at least 30 different landowners interested in leasing the land to us for 20 or so years to build tree houses on their land. So we whittled that down then to about 3 sites. I went to visit each one, spoke to the owners, and finally settled on one in Sussex. The landowners loved the idea. They ran weddings there, so they could see that there was a fit in terms of renting out the treehouse to their wedding guests. We progressed this then. We found a tree. That was a terribly arduous job, driving around land in Malandi, checking out trees on sunny days. But we found the perfect spot, we thought. It was south-facing, there was privacy, relatively easy access, but it did have some challenges, namely the services, so water and electricity. And herein lies the challenge. So the arrangement that we had with that site one was we would pay them 3k per year to lease the treehouse. In return, they were going to provide services to the structure. Again, the water to the structure was fairly cost effective. The power side of things, the landowner felt would also be fairly straightforward. There's a transformer, I think it's called, within about 150 metres. So they felt comfortable they could dig a trench and get it over. So we proceeded with this then. We did the ground surveys, we did the tree survey, we put together the tree house designs, and we were getting it ready for planning permission. Before we submitted, we wanted to get the lease signed with the landowner. The landowner was happy with the principle. He then went out and got a quote to hook up the power, and to run the power, the 150 metres and connect it up, was going to cost him £30,000. Now, given that we're renting, the land rent was 3k per year, needless to say, that 30 grand cost was too high a barrier for that landowner. So, really unfortunately, that particular site fell through. This is what that original design looked like. We did these designs with a company called Blue Forest, who are fantastic treehouse builders. There's also a lot of other fantastic treehouse builders here at the show as well, and I'll mention some of those a little bit later. But this was the original vision. That was a CGI of what it might look like. It was inspired by an armadillo. However, as I say, we failed. 30k for power just wasn't going to cut it. So back to the drawing board. We then subsequently engaged a land agent, and the land agent had connection to a lot of wealthy landowners. We expressed the idea that we wanted to build tree houses, teamed up with a guy called Nick House, who used to run a cottage agency called Rural Retreats. And through those conversations, we settled on a plot of land at Cornbury Park Estate, owned by Lord Rotherick, which is also where Wilderness Festival is held. If anyone here has been to Wilderness, okay, you should check it out. David Cameron goes, but then that put you off. Anyway, at this particular site, we found what we thought were the perfect trees. It wasn't this particular image here. So we found the spot, it was beautiful, got a ground survey done, and what we found was that the roots of the trees in that particular spot were not stable. So again, we had an issue in that what we thought was perfect, actually underground, it wasn't sufficiently stable to support these tree houses. And given that we were looking to now build 7 rather than the original 1, it's a fairly substantial investment, circa £1 million, obviously that was a non-starter. So, back to the drawing board again. Fortunately, Lord Rotherick has quite a bit of land, so we found this secondary plot here. Okay, so at this point in time, we'd learned from our previous lessons. So we made sure we had things like leases agreed fairly early on, although some T's and C's still being sorted on that. Still fitted the golden formula of being within 2 hours of London. And as I say, building more of them is the economies. So if you're running power and water in, let's say it's that 30 grand, but if you can bring 7 units off that, that's obviously shared rather than just one site. So Bidwell's the land agent, they were a great help. For a brief story, on the first occasion I went to meet Lord Rotherick. Did anyone here know Lord Rotherick himself? Right, no, okay, right. So that was an entertaining discussion. I went with my business partner, Nick House. He was a far more country gent styled person, doesn't have long locks hanging off his head. And Mr. Rotherick welcomed us into his office, and I don't think he looked at me once in the 15-minute meeting. He looked straight at Nick, my 50-year-old, far more respectable appearing gentleman, which was absolutely fine by me. Had a great conversation. He was sold about the idea. It only took about 15 minutes. He'd obviously seen the proposals. Said yes, good to go. Knocked over a cup of tea and sent us on our way. And said yes, you can have the land for 20 years. And I sort of like to say that's partly tongue-in-cheek, but credit where credit's due, because this is a gentleman with a lot of land, so asset-rich, but really wanted to progress things, to develop things, and he had the next generation in mind as well. He was keen on glamping, had already had discussions about glamping previously, but really could see that tree houses were high value, low volume, and would attract the right kind of guests for the estate. Okay, so this is one of my tree houses on with Quality Unearthed. I'm actually not showing the designs that we're working on at the moment for this project. If anybody wants to speak to me specifically about those afterwards, I'm very welcome to share those plans and the investment documents. So this particular site that we came to was an old brownfield site. It was completely overgrown with trees. It looked more or less mature, but in fact had been a World War II hospital. That was completely razed to the ground now, but the fact there was a platform there from where the hospital was, we felt was positive in terms of getting planning permissions. We thought the planners would see it as a brownfield site development rather than country, fresh countryside development. Also, we're fairly hidden from the neighbours. In fact, if I go back a couple of slides, you may be able to see that the nearest neighbours are here. So of course we had to be concerned about them, so we wanted to make sure there was shielding in place. Access along this main road here. There were some concerns about the access, so in planning we had to make sure that that's safe, and certainly made concessions with the neighbours so that at night when lights are on that they're not disturbed. Okay, I'll come to that one in a moment. So when building 7 units, things that the planners were concerned about, first and foremost, you had the environmental concerns. As I mentioned, the access and the neighbours, but also things like fire safety. And that was a bit of a challenge actually, because when you're bringing water to a 7-unit site with a reasonably long access, we had to make sure that the fire engines could get to a hydrant, and their hoses were of a certain length. So we needed to make sure that there was hydrants in enough places so that the fire engines could get to them and their hoses would be able to put out any potential fires. Also meant things like the track had to be heavy enough to withstand the weight of a fully laden fire engine. Now that wasn't something I ever thought about previously, but needless to say that has a bearing on costs. Cost including what do you do when you scrape the land off, where are you going to put it? You know, it can add quite a bit to your costs in getting rid of that topsoil. So there were certainly specifics which, again, I'm happy to talk more about afterwards, but I hadn't considered previously. And then one of the last things was wheelchair access. Now, tree houses are super cool. I think we can all agree on that. But getting someone who has mobility issues and in a wheelchair up into an elevated place is easier said than done. That's either a very long track to get them up there. So at first we thought, okay, well our concession will have to be that we put this treehouse near the entrance, and it would have to be fairly low to the ground. And that just didn't sit right with us, because it felt a bit unfair. This disabled access unit wasn't going to be half as cool as some of the other tree houses. So we scoped around the site, and actually we found an old quarry with 2 perfectly tall, straight pine trees in the middle of it. So what we realised, rather than elevating the treehouse up, we could build a platform across the quarry, so it's on level ground, if you like. As the ground dropped beneath, it gave the sensation of height. And actually, we now think that disabled unit is going to be the coolest unit on the site, the most exciting, the most photographed. So we were certainly pleased about that. This was what our original designs looked like. The reason we came to this design in the first place was we wanted to make sure that the units were not overlooking each other. There is a concern inevitably about privacy. You don't want to hear your neighbours, you don't really want to see your neighbours if you can avoid it. So by adopting a design like this with carefully positioned windows, it meant that the guests would feel like they were in their own piece of the woodland. You know, there's a romance to that. So if you guys are planning a multi-unit site, it is worth considering the aspect. South-facing is always advantageous, but not necessarily always possible. However, you can overcome those things through careful positioning of windows. Okay, so this then went to planning, and the planners were a bit unsure how to deal with this. There weren't any tree houses in the area, West Oxford Council weren't familiar with it, so the way we phrased it for them to conceptualise tree houses was to describe them like static caravans. Now that doesn't sound particularly exciting, but they get static caravans. They understand the sizing, they understand the delivery to the site, they understand the safety features, and we kind of described it like a static caravan on stilts, which I hope is going to look nothing like that. But from a planning point of view, that was a useful tip. So if you guys are going in with some funky structure, and they're thinking, what on earth is a geodome, or what on earth is a earth-sheltered home, or whatever it might be, if you can reframe it in a way that they understand, it makes them feel more comfortable. It makes them feel that they can say yes without getting in trouble with their superiors. Anyway, the planners weren't certain, so the planners sent us to committee. Has anyone here gone through planning? Actually interested? Yeah. Yeah. Has anyone had to go to committee? You haven't? Okay. So it's quite a stressful process. So the way it works basically, in one day they'll have 7 or more potentially councillors, and you pitch to them. They will then ask you questions and make a decision ultimately whether your site will go through. Now this room was, the committee were more mature gentlemen, and I thought I was going to have an uphill battle to explain these tree houses to them. I'd already watched them decline 3 applications at the time I'd been sitting there. So I thought, oh crikey, this is going to be a challenge. Nonetheless, we got up, we gave our pitch, and much to my surprise, they voted unanimously to give us planning permission. Now that was really forward thinking of West Oxford Council, and indicative of what we're seeing in France. So in France, for example, they're far more far more open to the idea of things like tree houses. In fact, as you drive around northern France, you often see the towns, like the town names or village names, and there's often like a picture of the things that are featured in that town. And some of the towns you were driving past, you would see pictures of the tree houses. So they were like super proud of it in France. And I was really pleased to see that West Oxford Council also seemingly really enthused about this idea of developing tourism. Again, low value, high volume, and and so yes, so we got the planning permission. We went then back to the designers and we said, okay, planning permission's now in place. We need to raise some funding for it. Are you happy to wait? They were happy to wait. In the meanwhile, we had the dreaded B word. Now, the impact that had on us was large prices that were being imported from Europe and steel prices. So Mr. Trump had an impact on steel prices, and the conversion rate drop, which we saw after Brexit, had a significant cost increase for large. So if you guys are buying or building something from Europe, that is a consideration. So, unfortunately, the cost of our tree houses went up 20 to 30%, which meant they were unviable with that designer. Back to the drawing board. Where we are at now is we have pitched the tree houses to two fantastic companies, both who could build awesome tree houses, and we're in the final stages of dotting the I's, crossing the T's on that lease, finalising the designs. Ultimately, it's investment that we are looking for, so if anyone here wants to get involved in tree houses, doesn't want to go through what we have gone through, feel free to speak to me afterwards, because it is an exciting opportunity. We're hoping to really get started in the next 6 to 12 months. My email's at the bottom there, or you've got it on the brochures around you. Okay, so that's all pretty cool, right? Tree houses. But we need to be looking, in my view, 15, 20 years ahead. If the lifespan of a tree house is minimum 20 years, what is going to come afterwards? Because what we've seen, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, is that it's evolving, it's progressing all the time. Yurts were the thing in 2010. You know, back to 2005 it was probably teepees. We've seen a lot of shepherd's huts, we've seen a lot of safari tents. And actually, I'll flip up the next slide just to quantify that a little bit. So on the Quality Unearthed site, we've taken on in the last 2 years 130% more canvas structures, yet the gross revenue from the canvas structures has only gone up 5%. Conversely, non-canvas structures, we've taken on 226% more over that 2-year period, but the revenue growth has grown 275%. So what you can see is that the gains in revenue with non-canvas structures is outpacing the gains that we're seeing with non-canvas, in canvas. Now there's a bit more detail that I have to go into on this, because there's certain canvas structures which are absolutely performing really well. So that's not to say that canvas isn't still a great option. But what we're seeing is that searchers, so mostly in Google, are being far more specific about what they're looking for. So back in 2010, it'd be phrases like Glamping UK, Yurts UK. Now we're seeing things like Yurts in St. David's that takes 2 dogs, right? And anyone involved in marketing will appreciate that the more specific the search term, the closer they are to booking, so the better the conversion rate. But the bearing this has on site owners is that a lot of people set up fantastic sites, but they weren't in locations that people naturally wanted to visit. So that meant they had to work that much harder now to get people to those sites, because let's say they wanted to go to local honeypot site, that's already got demand. So more, I'm not going to say more or less whatever you put up, because that's not quite true, but it's much easier to drive guests to that. As I say, conversely, if you're in a place where no one's visiting, what is it about your site that is going to pull people there? And there are tons of things that can be done. It also doesn't need to cost the earth. It could be a different look of paint, it could be different cladding, it could be a slide, it could be tyres for cladding, for example, it could be bottled bricks. So I'm not saying canvas is not a way to go, but you have to think about your location, the destination marketing side of things. So here's just a few examples of sort of the canvas side of things. I think you guys will probably get this already. Yurts and safari tents, geodomes at the bottom there. And for the avoidance of doubt, non-canvas structures, tree house here we have in mid Wales. Top right, this is an interesting example, that's shipping containers. Again, so if glamping's about the experience, it therefore, in my mind, doesn't mean that to set up a glamping site you have to necessarily put in 100 grand plus per unit, as is the case with the treehouse. Shipping containers go for circa 3 grand. Surely you've then got to line them, insulate them, put windows in, so of course there's other costs. But guests are wanting to see that creativity, that attention to detail that you guys are putting in. So an example I would give is, if you're setting a site up, go and sit on the toilet, right? And what are you seeing when you sit on the toilet? Because most people don't do that, right? Or at least they don't do it when they're planning their site. If you can imagine what it looks like when you're sitting on the toilet, and can you create something that's really cool? You know, a little piece of art, or something carved, or maybe a window out to something awesome outside, and then they walk out of the toilet, tell their partner, you know, that was awesome. So that is the kind of detail, that's the experience I'm talking about, and again, that doesn't need to cost the earth. Other things that we're seeing here, a boat at the bottom. Hey, there's no reason you couldn't take a boat that was no longer seaworthy and put that up in a tree. There's elements is an important factor here. Is it up in the air? Is it on water? Is it underground? Those things, in my view, it's engagement with those elements is part of providing a really great experience. We've got huts of different varieties. This example here, Malvern Hills, they actually met us at the glamping show, listened to our feedback, engaged with us. They wanted to create something a bit more unique. They built it themselves. I believe I'm right in saying they clad it in fencing posts. Now, I've not seen anyone else do that. Fencing posts are not the most expensive type of cladding, but they just delivered it really well. And that is performing as well as some of our top performing tree houses. Okay, now we're going to move on to what is coming next. Does anybody have any idea what they're looking at there? Okay, exciting. So that is called the Phoenix Earthship in New Mexico. Right, so hold tight, I know we're at the glamping show, and you might be thinking that's not a glamping structure, but follow me for a moment and I'll get to what I'm talking about. So here's another example of an earthship also in New Mexico. Here's another example, this is called the Castle. Those silver things that you're looking at there, those are beer cans. Terribly arduous job to find the building material. But that now is about, I think, 25 years old, built with cement and cans. And I've put it in here as an example of a creative way to create a structure. And that is the point that I'm making. It's not necessarily about building structures as large as that, but it's showing the ingenuity that you can use and the difference in materials you can use. Therefore, the cost was lower. Okay, it took a bit of time, but engaged a community. People came together to build these structures. Earthships are based on 6 fundamental principles. So they are about being fully sustainable and off-grid. Okay, so they need to address warmth, they need to address shelter, they need to address power, they need to address water, they need to address waste, and need to address food. Okay, those are the fundamentals as per Michael Reynolds from the Earthship. There's a great documentary called Earthship Warriors, and in fact, there's an interview if you go on YouTube and Google Quality Unearthed and Earthships, you'll get a really great synopsis of what Earthships are all about. And again, I'm not necessarily saying build these, but you may be able to take elements away from them. However, if you did build them, it's worth mentioning that for the Airbnb website in New Mexico, the most successful structures on Airbnb are earthships. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think creativity, the attention to detail, the sustainability, the wish to experience that part of life. Flicking through, here's another crazy structure that Michael Reynolds built. That is a genuine, proper, fully aligned pyramid with a crystal in the top provided by the Hopi. Moving on a little bit here, so here's other examples. So you could say this is arguably inspired by a yurt. Great views, they've gone into the ground, so there's a residual warmth when you go into the ground. The ground tends to be, I think I'm right in saying, around 6 to 7 degrees year round, once you get to about 3 foot below the ground, so that reduces your heating costs. I think this was a really funky structure. We've talked about the elements, so it doesn't need to be underground, it doesn't necessarily need to be in the air. What about on the water? And there's a lot of things you could do. So this is down in Milford Haven in Pembrokeshire. This is another one of ours, inspired by hobbit houses. Again, really funky structure, very successful, round doors, lots of attention to detail, beautiful craftsmanship. Okay, so this was built by a friend of mine called Simon Dale. Simon Dale is one of the UK's leading lights in sustainable eco-housing. Anybody want to hazard a guess how much it cost to build this structure? Anyone feeling brave? How much? 10,000? Any advances on 10,000? Good ones? 5. Okay, well, you're very close. It's £3,000. Okay, and this, I think I've got a photo of the inside in a moment. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. But the point I'm making with this structure, and why I've included in this presentation, is to show that they sourced these materials from the local area. They didn't need to spend a fortune bringing them in. They've used grass from around the area. They didn't need to pay thousands for a cedar roof. Cedar roofs are pretty pricey. I built a shed and put a grass roof. I just took the grass from the field. So again, there are other ways of doing it, and that creativity, thinking about these things, in my view, is a really big part of glamping. So this is a reciprocating roof. Very, very cool design. Tony Wrench, who builds roundhouses, also in West Wales, he's done a lot with these. It's another structure, again, by Simon Dale. Similar to Unearthed ship in many ways, south-facing, solar gain, warm up the thermal mass. This is inside one of Simon's structures. Now, again, I've included this in here because look at the staircase. How many regular houses have a staircase like that? The craftsmanship that went into that took time, admittedly, but it didn't need to take cost. The floor in this example is an earthen floor. Could you include that in some of your glamping structures? Obviously building regs has to be accounted for, so the balustrades do need to meet those criteria. But the wood was all sourced locally, and I think they've delivered a really cool, quirky structure. It's not currently for rent, but nonetheless, I just wanted to include that. The tree came from the land nearby as well. This was another story of Charlie and Meg, similar to Simon Dale's. They've used straw bales in this instance, but you could use materials like hempcrete, for example. We've seen examples with cans and bottles, but what about straw? What about stone? This is a structure which Lloyd Kahn built. Does anybody here know Lloyd Kahn? Or heard of Lloyd Kahn? Okay, if you make any notes from this presentation, hopefully it's quality Unearthed and come check us out. But if it's not, right, make a note of Lloyd Kahn. He wrote the books called Shelter. Shelter 1, 2 and 3, tiny homes, and basically he's aggregated really beautiful self-built structures, mostly in North America. Sunray Kelly is another guy worth mentioning, but check out Lloyd Kahn because he's featured a lot of these really inspiring builders. They've inspired me, and I think they've inspired the grassroots side of glamping. Glamping did start grassroots. People living in these funky places, not having a lot of budget, but having the time to put creativity in. And again, to reiterate, you don't need to drop a ton of cash to buy something and drop it on your site. You spend less cash, put more creativity into it, and we have the figures to back up that the sales, the revenue from that, makes it well worthwhile. Okay, so this was something I drew earlier, if only. Obviously not a real picture, but the point being, why not be floating and underwater? We don't see too many of those, but if we're talking about the future of glamping, we're talking about 30 years' time, and bearing in mind I'm defining glamping really as the forward to nature experience, then that looks pretty forward to nature to me. Okay, so is this the end of canvas? I really don't think it is. This is an interesting example of some tree houses. I believe the owners are here today. And they built a platform with a geodome at the end. And that geodome has a bed in it, and the rooms inside are fully equipped. But what a great little addition. For the cost of a geodome, it's got a bed inside it. They might not sleep every night in it, but it's a beautiful feature. So there's most certainly space for canvas going forward. And again, here's another example of a yurt. In fact, this is exactly the same yurt that I lived in for the same type of yurt I lived in for 8 years. What I like about this is they've just gone a little bit further. It doesn't look like your standard Mongolian-inspired yurt, but having said that, fundamentally they've put in a beautiful bed. There's a lot of other beautiful features with this structure, but I feel that if you guys do go down the canvas route, just think about what extra can you do, especially if you're not in one of those locations which tourists already want to go to. Okay, so we're coming to a close. So tree houses, absolutely still a great idea. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'd love to speak to anyone interested in the investment side of things. Looking forward, it's the experience, sustainability, sure, that's imperative. That really shouldn't be an add-on, guys. That should be just ingrained in everything we do. Have fun with it, okay? If you're struggling with ideas, go to the bar, have a few G&Ts and blue sky it. Brainstorm the most ridiculous things you could be doing. You can always tone it back. You know, we were doing that yesterday and we were talking about an old Ford KA which got left after a festival I was running. We thought, why not cut it up, weld an A-frame to support it and turn it into a swing? Okay, it's going to cost a few quid, but I've not seen anyone else do that. What have you got on your land that could be used? You know, is it a grain silo? Have you got maybe it's an old boat? You know, try and use what you've already got. Ultimately, it is financially viable. So that is it for today. I'll hand over to you guys. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions for Glamping? Yes. Okay, so that's a good question. We're talking about the 20% yields on tree houses. How do you get your investment back? Long story short, it'll take about 5 years. The lifespan of a tree house is, say, 25 years, 25 years minimum, depends on maintenance. So you get your returns in the first, well, after 5 years, say. So you've then got 15 years. What we have done is we've designed them so that they can be dismantled and moved elsewhere. So they could be resold on afterwards. So that certainly is an option. And with glamping, like the Mongolian proverb, the glamping structure will last as long as a marriage. Look after her, she'll last your lifetime. Treat her badly, she'll be gone in a flash. Any other questions? Okay, guys. Well, look, thank you so much for coming along. Thanks to the Glamping Show for having me. Oh, one more question. Okay, so another really good question about building regulations. If you're building a sustainable home and say you're using things like straw bale, are you considering U values, which the insulation values, right? Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah, ultimately, if you're building something which people are going to sleep in, it's going to have full planning, full building regs. But luckily, there's already been a ton of research about cob, which is earth essentially, straw bales, concrete. They've been tested from the U value point of view. So that picture I showed you earlier with the staircase, which was made with a tree in the centre, the building regs guys are going to check that. But they know the strength of wood. This is not my field of expertise, but they've got like the tensile strength, so they can measure all of that. So yeah, and long story short, it does have to meet those regulations, but that doesn't eliminate the need for creativity. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Any further questions? Is there one? There's one squeaking out there, I think. We can talk afterwards about it, yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, look, guys, thanks once again. Hope you have a great show, and yeah, thanks to the Glamping Show. Cheers.